I used to keep them close, thought they were friends, but all they brought was chaos driving me round the bend.
All right, welcome to another broadcast. We're going to be starting here in a few moments here, and right now we're just giving people time, as always, to get on. Again, you're watching a live broadcast. Okay, well, right now you are, but maybe you're not if you're probably watching a recorded version, but whatever, you'll figure it out. Okay, well, welcome. Let's give people some time to get on. Okay,
embracing solitude, finding my own light. Tonight I'm dancing alone, feeling the beat. No more crazy people bringing me to defeat. Finally feeling free. I used to keep them close, thought they were friends, but all they brought was chaos driving me round the bend. I realized it's time to let them go. It's time to find my peace, time to let it show. I'm cutting ties, breaking free from the chains. No more drama, no more playing those mind games. I'm finding solace in the quiet night.
all right.
Embracing solitude, finding my own.
We're going to be today, the main story that we're going to be talking about, which will be in the latter part of this broadcast. We're going to talk about this, something I was able to put together last night, and I was just like, okay, we got it. I mean, this is the receipts right here. Talking about what is it when it comes to black economics? Why does it seem like it's just not happening? And we blame a lot of other things, but I'm just going to show you the data, all right? That's what we're going to look at. Before we get to that, we're going to go through and look at some of the more pressing issues, in my opinion, than this Essence Festival thing. I still don't understand. Maybe y'all can tell me why this is still a big thing. I don't understand. We're also going to talk about Trump's 180-degree turn that he's done on this whole Epstein thing. We're going to talk about that.
No more crazy people bringing me to defeat.
Shout out to, of course, everybody that's in the chat. Someone asked, is this song available for download? If you remind me at the end of the broadcast, I will make it available for you. I think it's part of an album that we put together some time ago, if I'm not mistaken. I think might be, but either way, I'll make it available. All right, let's go ahead and get ready. So again, thank you so much for tuning in to this broadcast. And today is Tuesday, July the 15th, 2025. We're in a cool season right now here in the great state of Arizona. It's the high today was 100 degrees. So it was pretty cool today. It was pretty cool today. Yeah. So, and it's, we're averaging about 90 in the 90s, out here in this, during this week. So yeah, we're getting a little bit of a cool down. So yeah, it's okay. Again, same protocol. You start off, you get out as early as you can, get as much sunlight as you can, and get your behind back in the house, because it's a wrap after that. And but other than that, it's another wonderful day out today. And I'm building up my plant collection out. You can't really see it back there, but I was on Instagram, and I saw someone, they did I haven't done this in a long time, and growing sweet potato plants. And they call them slips or something like that. This is it right here. This is one of them. I have another one there. I don't feel like if I move it, I don't want to move them too much. But anyway, I got two of them there. I'm sitting it right there. But yeah, so I said, yeah, man. I mean, they grew this thing out, man, and they were talking about how you can actually eat the leaves and all this stuff, and they were just saying so many other things you could do with it. I said, I'm just gonna do that. Why not? I mean, we eat sweet potatoes here all the time. Might as well, let me just do that. So yeah, so I'm doing that, and let's see what else I was doing this last week. Went through our storage, and Lord, we got stuff. When I tell you, we got stuff that we have been carrying for a long time. With every state that we've moved to, we've been carrying it with us. And I said, you know what? Let me start listing some of this stuff, and see if I can get some of this stuff sold. So I've been kind of going through some of those things and, taking pictures. And I'm going to tell you, I really like the, what I did is I took some stuff out and, I didn't know, the value of it, or I couldn't tell a backstory of it or anything like that, and took a picture of it, just went to ChatGPT. It gave me the whole nine. It told me everything about it. It told me, the time period it was created, that they made these things that I have. And they also talked about like some of the artists that could have made it. They also told me the suggested price. I mean, it gave me a whole lot, and it was like, okay, you want me to write a ad for you for which platform? You want to do it for Facebook? You want to do it for tell me the platform? I'll go ahead and do it for you. I was like, okay, let's go ahead, let's do it. And so if you haven't been doing that, if you got some things you're trying to sell or whatever, that's a great tool for that, because it just kind of lets you know everything, as far as like, what the listing price is, and it will even do the listing for you and all of that. And a lot of stuff is free. It's out there. You could do this stuff now. So yeah, I was kind of doing that. That's like an ongoing project for me, but I was certainly not just doing that. We were doing some other things there. But yeah, so anyway, if this is your first time here, again, big shout out to everybody that's in the chat. So glad to have you guys here. And of course, those that are watching, I'm glad that you are here too as well. And as always, if you got any questions or comments or whatever, always feel free. You can leave them. Just be respectful. That's it. Don't be leaving some comment. Don't leave a link to something else that's unrelated to everything we're talking about. Just don't do that kind of stuff. But, just keep it on point. Be respectful and let's go. But I will warn you, if you're someone that's watching and you want to bring some heat, don't get mad or don't try to deflect when I bring the heat back to you. Okay, it's just simple as that. I get people that come all the time that will try to bring some heat, and then when I return it, the first thing they try to do is deflect. The first thing they will say is, oh, well, why are you so offended? Don't get all triggered. And I'm like, no, that's how you came in the door, so I'm going to give it back to you. So it's all good, it's fine, but as long as you're staying on the point, I'm game, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, so that's what we do here, but we take our time and we go through different news items, okay? So even though the title may say one thing, we do cover other things as well, all right? So I'm just throwing that out there. And of course, this broadcast has been brought to you by Samba Tree, and Samba Tree is basically our little corner of the woods where we are providing real solutions from a natural perspective, a healthy natural perspective. Everything from teas to herbs to, well, that's one and the same, right? Oils to powders to bitters, all kinds of stuff. Check us out again at sambatree.com, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that a little bit later. Okay. All right. Well, let's go into it, and let's start off the conversation. Again, big shout out to everybody that's in the chat. I'll just shout your names out too, then we'll get into it. Willie always be the first in line. He always be in the first in line. So big shout out to Willie. Calculated Crescendo in the house. We got MB, Team Truth, as always. Appreciate you. Gerard in the house. And then we got Nidra, always in the house as well. Good to see you. And others that will be joining us as well. Well, let's just really quick, y'all, because I don't want to spend too much time with this, but I'll mention it. But I tell you, it's really something to me. I'm going through my timeline, and I'm seeing all these people. Like last night, I was on my just social media or whatever. I see all these videos of people still talking about this Essence Festival thing, and I'm sitting up here. Why is this still a big issue? Like, I don't. I still don't get it. Anyway, we did a video where we talked about some things, some perspectives on that I think that people are kind of overlooking, because everybody's driving this whole thing that the Africans came over, and since the Africans came, they took it over, and now it's the tethers. The tethers are the ones that are tearing it down. It used to be good, but it ain't good anymore. It's those dirty, stinking tethers. That's what they're doing. And all we did was, again, go to the video where we talked about it. I said, okay, so now we're talking immigrants. Okay, it's the immigrants. Okay, it's their fault. Well, Susan Taylor, we looked at, all you got to do, I encourage you, go to her Wikipedia page. Susan Taylor, both of her parents are not from here. Now, she was born in Harlem, but both of her parents are not from here. That's what a lot of people would categorize as someone who is not of this soil. They will say that. Even if they're born here, they will say that. And Susan Taylor is definitely, if it wouldn't be, I don't think Essence would be what it is as far as the legacy of it. I don't think it would be what it is if it wasn't for Susan Taylor. I mean, I think hands down, and I'm sure, some of y'all who are familiar with the magazine, you definitely would say that, because all through the 80s, during that whole tenure, that's all I saw was her face. Susan Taylor, very classy woman and all of that. And then after that, we showed, others that carried the torch who were also not from here. But then all of a sudden, now this latest woman that's in here right now, I mean, now her management style and what she's putting out, okay, she a little, got some things going on, but to use this as some kind of argument that somehow it's the way it is, this festival is the way it is simply because of they came in and they took it over. Well, you got to go all the way back and look at everybody else that was involved, who made this magazine what it was. And we went to the founders. It was two Black American men that started it, all of that. I'm not going to redo the video, but I'm just encouraging people, and don't just follow the narratives that a lot of people are throwing out here. I want you guys to have some basic understanding. It takes about a minute to look these things up. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yes, there are some issues regarding, the whole, what they, people that aren't, Black American, quote unquote, and versus who is and all of that. Yes, there's some things that need to be discussed, but I'm gonna tell you, a lot of the stuff I'm hearing today, it's just running of the mouth. It's literally not doing anything. It's not. It really isn't. And I find people, they will spend hours upon hours just tearing each other down. And I'm like, okay, then what do we do with this? Now what? Now what? Well, I'm just saying, okay, that's all you got? That's all we're going to talk about is how terrible they are, or they're going to talk about how terrible we are? That's it? I don't know how people will spend hours just going back and forth with that. I don't get it. But anyway, I did a post. Let me bring this up here. Was it last night? I think it was last night. Talking about the, this is part of the whole Essence thing here. Hold on. It's right here. There we go. People have been pushing this whole thing. Now, Target was there. They were, because they were one of the main sponsors. And to listen to these people bashing Target on one hand, but at the same time they're showing up at the Essence I don't get it. I'm like, okay, are they the Antichrist, or are they? I don't get it. But anyway, Target was there, and people seem like they were either with that, there were people who went there and enjoyed themselves. I mean, that's them. Okay. I'm talking about this, but I'm like, why is this such a big deal? I still don't get this. Anyway, so this is a post I did. Now, you remember earlier people were talking, I just mentioned Target, and people were saying that, okay, you know, the Jamal Bryants and some of these other people got together and said, we got to do something, you know, because Target shut down DEI and all of that. And I have the link in this post here of the video where I talked about the whole Target thing and how a lot of people are getting this thing wrong, because and I will say this, and I say this in love, but there are people out here that are very lazy. Okay. I'll just say it. Okay. There are people out here that are extremely lazy, meaning that they will just hear just enough and they'll just get set off by it. And what a lot of people ran with is that Target basically got the call that they're not going to do DEI anymore. And so Target just went through their shelves and said, okay, we're going to cut all of these black folks out of here. And then people just ran with that and said, okay, that's what Target is doing to black entrepreneurs. They're just running through their shelves and just yanking them off the shelf. That is not what happened. That is absolutely not what happened. There was an interaction I had with someone. I even explained, I went through 3 different examples. And like I said, again, the video, I have a link to the video where I was talking about this. There was one case of a woman who came out with these playing cards. It's a great idea, but you know, they're playing cards. I mean, we're in 2025. There aren't too many people that, I'm talking about younger people, especially, that aren't really going to be into that. You know what I mean? And it was like Black history kind of stuff. It's a cool idea, but you know, it ain't on the phone. It ain't digitized. I mean, I'm just telling you. And so, you know, from what it sounds like, the sales just were not what she thought they were going to be, or she couldn't keep up. It was something like that, but it had nothing to do with Target. And so she had to go. Some of y'all are familiar with the brand Ghetto Gastro. You know, those they make, it's a black owned retailer. They make like those Pop-Tarts, but they're not Pop-Tarts. They call them something else. They also make like waffle and pancake mix, and they make some other things too, but kind of along those lines. And I looked them up. I said, are they still in Target? I looked them up. They ain't at Target anymore. Aha! See, that's it. That's it. See, Target took them out. See, there you go. See, I told you Target was racist. They took them off the shelves. Well, before you do that, look it up. It wasn't Target that pulled them off the shelves. It was actually the other way around. They, for whatever reason, and it's a pro press release, they made the choice to remove themselves off of the shelves. It doesn't go into any more than that, but it's a statement, I think, from both of them saying that they agreed to basically, you know, they agreed. They initiated this request to be removed off of the shelves. They did it. Why? I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but that was something, according to the article that I was reading, they are the ones that initiated that. So it was them. Now we also have on the other side, we got the other woman that's on there, the woman that's like on Food Network and all of that. And, you know, her stuff is selling well. Here's the thing. Let me just tell you how retail, these big box places basically work. Okay. Every corner of a big box place, and I'm talking grocery stores. It could be Target. It could be Walmart. It could be a Dollar Tree. It doesn't matter. The way they work is everything in every corner of that place, they assign a value to it. Okay. So, you know, when you walk through the doors and sometimes they'll have like a pop-up little kind of cardboard display and they're selling whatever it is. Well, they got to pay for that space. They don't just think this is a good idea. We're just going to sit it here. No, that's not how it works. That space, they are actually paying for that space. Okay. And then, of course, whatever sales they make, the store gets a percentage of it. And then the person that manufactures it, they get the majority, right? That's how that works. Every shelf, has its own value. Every slot, every space has its own value. Okay. And so if your product is selling, that means that the retailer, let's say in this case, Target, they're happy, and the manufacturer, they're happy. Everybody's happy. And the customer, most importantly, they're happy, right? But if something happens where, let's say, you're not making enough sales, depending on whatever it is your agreement was between you and Target, if you're not meeting sales quota, well, what they'll do is say, well, let's reevaluate this. They may try to work with you, but if you're still not able to make quota, you out of there. So Target, Walmart, all these other grocery stores, they have a certain standard before you can even be listed on their shelves. They have a certain standard before you. In other words, I can't just walk in and say, hey, I'm black and can y'all put me on the shelf? You can't do that. They have a certain standard that you have to meet in order for them to consider having you in the store. That's how it works. Do you understand? And so one of the things they're looking for is, okay, markability. Are you, the product that you have, is it something that is there a real demand for it? And you can say yes all you want. They want to see your sales sheet, right? And so if your sales sheet looks good, great. And they say, okay, that's something I think we can partner with. Congratulations. That's it. Now, when DEI came in, this is the part where people fall asleep and get lazy. When DEI came in, what happened? They basically lowered the standard. This is where people lose it. They lowered the standard and they said, okay, this is what we normally would request before you walk in our door. But because, DEI and we got to do DEI, okay, we're going to lower the standard and just start getting more people out there on our shelves. And we'll just see what happens. Well, that's what they did. So they did get a significant amount of black retailers on there, but it wasn't, let's be clear, it wasn't just black retailers. It was woman, and I've seen some, it's like woman owned, which is cool, whatever. But let me just say this as a guy, I don't care if it's woman owned. That doesn't do anything for me. Maybe it does something for women, and maybe as women, maybe that's something that you go in there and you specifically, some of y'all can let me know in the chat, when you go in the store, are you looking on the label and seeing if it's woman owned or not? For me, I don't care. I mean, it's great, but whatever. If it's black owned, I mean, it means a little bit more to me, but I'm not, like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I tried the Ghetto Gastro Pop-Tarts thing because on the label on the front, it said, oh, it's 100% natural. We use natural products and all this stuff. Listen, I'm just telling you as a customer, my experience, okay? Not bashing anybody. I'm just saying. I looked at the ingredients of it and I was like, oh, hell no, this don't seem natural to me. I mean, it had stuff in there that I was like, I wouldn't get it even if it was a white person. It don't matter. I wouldn't get it. You understand what I'm saying? And so for me, I was like, because I did buy it one time. Man, that thing sat on the shelves because once my family saw it, and I'm probably lowest on the totem pole when it comes to picking things, off the shelf in the grocery store. Sometimes I'm just like, I'll just grab it, whatever. I read the label and all that, but between my wife and my children, I would say between my wife and my daughter, let me be more specific. They will comb through that label and they'd be like, oh, okay. And it just, next thing I know, they sit on the shelf and I'm like, okay, I guess it didn't pass the test. But yeah, so I tried it and I said, it just ain't for me. That's it. That was it. So I didn't feel any kind of allegiance, like I got to keep buying it. I mean, it wasn't something for me, right? So I don't necessarily, when I go into stores, I'm not looking for identity. I'm hungry. You know what I'm saying? If I want to get a sandwich or something made, I'm not okay. I'm not eating your sandwich until you get a black person in here to make it. I don't care. Just don't spit on my food. That's it. That's my qualifier. Don't spit on my food. Don't drop my food on the floor and then pick it back up and put it between the don't the basics, that's all I expect. But that's what DEI the whole spirit behind it was that this is the thing that we got to push, right? And so you also saw, this is owned by 2 lesbians or 2 gay men or whatever. I don't care. I don't care. Just don't spit on my stuff. You know what I mean? I don't. But that's what they did. So they lowered the standard. And what happens? Well, it's demand. It's demand. Supply and demand. Supply and demand. If the demand ain't there, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have an overstock of supply. This is what happened with that woman that had all them little playing cards. She was like, I got all these I got a whole warehouse full of stuff. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I hope somebody buy it. You know what I'm saying? But why did she end up how did she manage to who made the decision to get you on that shelf in the first place? Unfortunately, in her case, it was DEI. So yes, there were some black folks who washed out, but it had nothing to do with them saying, niggas, get out of our store. Listen, these stores are about making money, period. This is the part that a lot of people miss out on. The people that are oftentimes pushing these whole narratives that these executives are sitting back like, I can't wait to get these niggas off our shelves. I can't. Okay, we already have fried chicken back there, and we already sell watermelon. What else do they want? You think they sitting back there going on like that? No, they want your behind up in there. And whatever they got to do to get your behind up in there, guess what? They're going to have it on the shelves. So if you are putting together a great product and people want it, well, guess what? They're going to have it on the shelves. But you listen to these fools out here and they think that we're in the 1800s or something. No. Are there people out there that don't like black folk? Yes. But we in a green society right now, okay? People care about that. You understand what I'm saying? At the end of the day, that's what they care about. Listen, out here in Arizona, some of these places I go, I'm like, I know there's some illegals back there. I don't care. Some folks, they get, I'm going to call ICE. Well, call them after they make my sandwich, okay? Let me get in the car first, okay? Then you can ice baby all you want, but I ain't doing it, okay? I already paid my money, okay? I already swiped my card, okay? I ain't going to be fighting up in here, just to get my stuff, okay? I ain't doing that, okay? Let me get my food first, and then y'all can do that. Some people, they just most people don't care. They don't. You know what I mean? But anyway, it is what it is on that. But anyway, let me get back to this post here. But this whole thing that it's not an official term, but it is a term that oftentimes people kick around, and it's quite funny. It's referred to as main character syndrome, where you actually believe that you are the main character of everything. I was just dealing with someone, a commenter just recently, a short that I did, and she's all in a tizzy because you didn't have an image that represented my body type. I'm like, that wasn't the point. Okay, send a picture next time. Maybe I'll put it in there, but that wasn't the point. Did you get the message though? Well, you still didn't. I'm like, bye. I don't have time for that. But anyway, main character syndrome, where you just are the centerpiece of everything. I'm gonna give you an example of it. Give you a good example of it. Target, when they kicked off this whole Target boycott thing, and the market does what it does. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down, sometimes it goes down, sometimes it goes up. And you had black folks that were out here saying, see, when the days it went down, they were saying, see, I'm telling you, when black folk get together, this is what we do. You see how we doing this? We are lowering their stock. We are doing, and I'm sitting up here holding my head like, these people don't even understand. They really don't understand. They really, really don't understand. They don't. Well, let's look at the article, shall we? Let's look at what happened. Okay, so, but you have people out here, and he got Jamal Bryant out here leading all the people. They done even made shirts. Probably had his frat brothers and made those shirts. Got all these people. It's a parking lot full of Negroes. And they were all had their arms stretched to Target and all that stuff. And it's like, okay. I don't get it. Anyway, Target. So guess what? So Target made an announcement today. Well, guess what's happening? The company announced plans to launch 48 stores from the Big Apple to California coast and in between. Future stores are selected based on factors like community needs, site constraints, and where Target stores are already operating. Out of the 48 stores, Florida and Texas tied for the most location openings, count at 6. Other states that will get one or more new Target stores are Arizona. Yep, they're building one literally right down the street from us. Target stores are Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Idaho, Kentucky, Ohio, Massachusetts, Missouri, Mississippi, North Carolina, Nebraska, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, South Dakota, and Utah. Okay, so what happened? What had happened wasn't, because nothing happened. Target just yawned and said, okay, we're just going to move on. The point is this, because when you hear people saying this, am I saying that black folks don't have any kind of economic power? No, I'm not saying that. What I am saying is this, is that this stupid behind stuff that you have some Negroes participating in, yes, they are suffering from a main character syndrome. That's what I'm saying. Because what they are showing is that they really do not have a basic understanding of how the market works. They really don't. But let's get even further than this, because I have more I can add to this. But let's get in further in this. See, some of y'all actually thought that it was black folks that started this whole this thing. It was called the blackout. You thought black folks started this out. You heard the name blackout, right? So you assumed that it was black folks that did this. You thought they did this? Okay. Well, let me show you the person that's actually behind it. Oh, no, it's not her. No, it's not her. There you go. There it is. The man behind the Target blackout. His name is Mr. John Schwartz. John Schwartz, ladies and gentlemen. And I have a link to the article. I've already done a video on this. I'm not going through this again. But this is the person that's actually behind it. If you read the article, he talks about, I was sitting home and one day I was just thought about it. I said, this is really something, we got to do something about this, fight against the economy and all that. And I'm going to come up with something. And he came up with it, got together with Al Sharpton and the gang and his organization. And then from there, that's when Jamal Bryant, he got involved, and then it just snowballed from there. Now all of a sudden it was like, oh, we got to do something and all, that's what it is. But I'm sitting back like, what, bro, what? I mean, there are black folks that still work there. There are black folks that still shop there. I personally don't care. I don't necessarily go there. I don't have any kind of, I kind of stopped going there when they were doing their whole LGBT stuff. That was me. That was my decision. That's it. But I ain't going to sit up here and stand in the front and prevent anybody else from going. If that's where you want to go, you go. That's you. I don't care. But this mindset that you have, you think that you really thought you were doing something, didn't you? How many people you think gonna do a video on that? Oh, they not. Because they want to walk away and believe. See, Dwayne, but see, what you don't understand is, what you don't see is, you're looking with the natural eye. What you got to do, you got to look at the spiritual. When you look through the spiritual, I saw in the spirit, there were angels. That's what I saw, angels. They were standing in the front of every aisle in that store, and they had a sword in their hand, and that, I'm a son of a, and they were telling people, don't you dare pick up those diapers. You better not. Don't you dare get that apple juice. Oh, that's what I saw. That's what I saw in the spiritual realm. That's what I saw. And people, they just eat it up. That's all you got to tell them. That's all you got to tell them. And they just eat it right up. But in the real world, Target going to keep on being on Target. That's what they're going to do. And they're going to keep on making that money. And that's it. Meanwhile, but isn't it sad, though? And this is what I'm going to talk about later on. Isn't it sad, though? Anytime you do see in many cases, when you do see black folks who are wanting to make some type of economic statement in these days, it's not historical, but in these days, it's always about tearing some business down. Ain't that something? We're going to get back to that in a moment, okay? But anyway, let's move on. But yeah, I wanted to talk about that because I was like, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. Anyway, let's move on here. And, I was very frustrated these last few days, but I was, in my mind, I was actually clearing up some things. I was getting myself together. Some days I just need to sit back and get my mind together and, figure some things out. Because I was just like, what was very frustrating to me and has been getting very frustrating to me is that I'm like, is this is it. This is the main topic that everybody's talking about is this. And then on top of that, I saw people doing videos where they were actually trying to support, that black girl that was down in Texas. Texas, here we go again. That was saying all this stuff about the white girls that, met an untimely death due to these floods. We'll talk about those floods too in a little bit. Because I don't think that's some coincidence either, but that's me. But yeah, floods that unfortunately took out those little girls or whatever. It's sad to hear anytime you hear anybody. I don't care, they're white girls, black girls, Asian girls. It doesn't matter. These are children. You know what I mean? But this black woman got up here and was basically throwing all this stuff out here. And then all of a sudden, then she trying to act all shocked that somehow people were getting mad at her. And I mean, you even had the organization that it was a black organization that she was a part of. They even threw her under the bus and they were like, she on her own. And of course, she had a white boyfriend, which that's her choice. I don't care. But even her black boyfriend, who happened to be a pastor, he was like, yeah, I ain't got nothing to do with that. You know what I mean? So even he threw on her bus. But trust the crazy internet, because I saw people out here. I saw people even trying to use the Bible to justify what she was saying. And I was sitting up here scratching my head, y'all. I had to scratch my head. I'm sitting up here like, wait a minute. Now, doesn't this woman have a, what do you call those things? Arrest records. I think that's what she had. Like, she done been in and out of jail. I don't know how many times, been arrested. I don't know how many times. And people trying to justify what she did, what she was saying. They're trying to justify it. I'm like, no, this woman is all the way crazy. But people were bought in on that. Then you had the whole McDonald's thing. That was the other story that people were still just chomping at the bit on that still. And when I say chomping on bit, I'm talking about folks talking about it where they were defending the girl that did the murder. They were defending her. I saw quite a few videos on that and comments as well. And you know what people are saying? Well, shoot, that's, you can't be messing with folks like that. You can't be messing with people. I was like, so that's your solution, to pull out a knife and kill somebody? So I'm seeing all this stuff and I was like, okay, let me back all the way up. Because I'm seeing a lot of investment in things that it's just, I don't, why, But in the meantime, there was some things that were going on that happened, this week and, that I think they're quite important and we should be talking about, But the challenge I always run into is there are things I'm like, man, I'd like to do a video on this, or maybe I'll talk about this or whatever. But it always does seem like there's very low interest. And so for me, I'm not going to really waste my time on stuff like that. So I'm just like, screw it. Right? Not that I'm some God and I think I'm some God. I have some God complex and I'm just, I'm going to withhold this information. No, it's not that. It's just for me, I'm not going to waste my time. You understand what I'm saying? But, information's out there. People want to know. It's on them, So anyway, here's one of the stories that this was one that was from O'Keefe Media Group. And this is the guy who he has like he does like investigative journalism. I'll probably say it's more guerrilla type journalism where he's always doing these undercover things. Well, anyway, he did an undercover and I'm going to play it for you. with a Johnson & Johnson lead scientist. And this lead scientist basically confessed that that they was forcing on folks a few years ago was not safe and effective. Okay. I want you to take a listen at this, and hopefully the YouTube gods won't, take this down, but it's out here. But I want you to listen to it for yourself and ask yourself while I'm playing this, why are we not talking about this kind of stuff? Where are all them black doctors and preachers and stuff that was trying to get people to take the thing? And now when this information is coming out, ain't nobody, talking about it. Where are all the black investigative journalists that are out there that are doing this kind of work where you're catching people, like this guy is doing? Where is that? You notice that I don't know of anything like that. Only time I see any kind of like undercover kind of stuff is it's some nonsense stuff. It's like, someone, baby daddy kind of stuff. But I mean, I'm talking this kind of stuff at this level. You know what I mean? Why don't we see that kind of stuff happening in our neck of the woods? But anyway, let's play this video here. I want you to take a listen, and let's go.
Do you have any idea the lack of research that was done on those products?
Joe Biden says that it's safe and effective, but he didn't know.
There's no proof. I mean, none of that stuff was safe and effective. People wanted it. Who gave it to them? It's like, all right, you know what? Cancer patient's going to die anyway. I'm sure somebody's going to get sued for that stuff eventually.
Hi, Josh. Are you Josh Rice from Johnson & Johnson? You're going to deny your identity?
Yes, sir.
And you said that your vaccine was not safe and effective. You said that. Deep inside Johnson & Johnson's global machine is a scientist, a lead scientist, whose very approval or disapproval of J&J products can change millions of American lives. Meet Joshua Rees, a lead regulatory scientist at Johnson & Johnson. Joshua, in his role, leads the creation and execution of regulatory strategies for new and existing products across Johnson & Johnson.
We run the whole soup to nuts. Not only are we working on the products, but everything that has to do with the drug. We have to make sure you understand how to use the drug, how to be able to prescribe certain pieces of information, how to communicate that to the patient.
Now, according to a Johnson & Johnson press release from December 2021, the safety and well-being of those who use the Johnson & Johnson vaccine continues to be our #1 priority. Now, for the first time ever, an official from Johnson & Johnson admits to our hidden cameras that the Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccine was, quote, not safe and effective, unquote. And the company wanted to, quote, just throw the vaccine creation to the wind and see what happens, unquote.
They're like, oh, Joe Biden says that it's safe and effective, but he didn't know.
There's no proof. I mean, none of that stuff was safe and effective. We didn't do the typical test. The typical process, that's why it takes so long to get a product on the market. The typical process is all this clinical trial testing and stuff in a small population. This was just, let's test it on some, lab models, analyze and see if it works and stuff like that, and just throw it to the wind and see what happens.
But people didn't know that. The patients doing it,
That's what I'm saying. I'm sure somebody's going to get sued for that stuff eventually.
The lead regulator.
Hold on for a second here. I'll get back to it in a moment. Hold on for a second. Now, do y'all remember all those videos that was put out? Now, I'm talking to you, Black America. Do y'all remember all those videos that were put out where we had black doctor after black doctor after black doctor after black doctor that got up here? Tyler Perry, he had his thing, and then they come up here. I wish I had one of them white jackets. I would wear it. And they were like, yeah, see, what I did was, myself and other doctors, we got together because, see, we said, listen, we sat down and, with these pharmaceutical companies, and we told them, listen, now, black folks, we have a long history here, and we want to make sure that whatever you're going to give to us, we want to make sure that it does, it is in fact safe and defective, right? Yeah, that slipped out, right? We want to make sure it's safe and effective. And yeah, we want to make sure of that, okay, because, we are actually the conscience of the country here, okay? And so, we're going to make sure everything is right here. So we need to look at the research. We're going to analyze this. And that's what they claim. They claim this. This is what their big sell was. And so what it put in a lot of people's minds was that these Negroes took it to their own separate labs, whose labs have their own separate high standards. Because if you got your own lab and you're looking at stuff like that, your standards got to be higher than the person, whatever it is that they're bringing in. You understand what I'm saying? You got to have higher standards. Right? And no, they handed them some paperwork and gave them some money and said, and I already showed you the paperwork. Speaking of which, yeah, everyone that walked through your door, however amount that you give or whatever, you get a certain percentage for everyone you administer. I showed you the paperwork. It's somewhere on our community page. You can find it. You can do a search for it. It's out there. It's out there. And so, but this is what they try to tell us here. And now they're coming out and saying this. Now, all of a sudden, everybody quiet now. Now, all of a sudden, they want you to focus on Target. You see what I'm trying to get at, y'all? You see what I'm trying to get at? See, these are details. These are details. See, when you are so emotionally driven on the only way you will engage in a topic is that if it's some high emotion associated with it, there are so many details you will miss, like this. It's a little bit too late to tell people this now, ain't it? But guess how look how they had to find out. This guy has the O'Keefe, James O'Keefe, developed a solution. How can I get this information? Well, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to use my own resources, and I'm going to go to these people, and I'm going to follow up on them, and I'm going to get the information. Now, when you look at the top YouTubers that are out there today, I'm talking black folks now, what are they talking about? Are they going in and doing follow-up on this kind of stuff? Are they doing this kind of work? Are they doing a follow-up? Most of them are not. There are some out there. There are some that are out there, but most, no. I was just like, don't get it. Especially when you're the most impacted by it. I especially don't get that. But anyway, let me move back to this video here. Let it continue to play out.
Regulatory scientists for Johnson & Johnson went into detail about how the federal government applied heavy pressure on Big Pharma in order to hastily create the Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccine, encouraging speed over efficacy or safety.
Do you have any idea the lack of research that was done on those products? Like, you shouldn't be surprised that this happened. It was pretty much the government kind of made a deal with pharmaceutical companies and kind of pressured the pharmaceutical companies, because we're not going to say no to the help, like the government. Like the government's like, yo, these three big ass companies, we need help. We need to figure this out. You're solving this problem.
Was that Operation Warp Speed?
I mean, we basically just had a race to figure out who could solve it best. Like, people wanted it. We gave it to them.
The CDC has previously announced they're pulling the J&J vaccine from use in the United States. J&J claims this is due to the vaccine's declining use and the company's strategic shift away from the vaccines. But as you just heard, J&J's own regulatory scientist was well aware of the ineffectiveness of their own COVID vaccine.
There's something side effect that's gonna happen. And it's more or less, all right, what's the worst side effect that's gonna happen? And is that better than the benefit that the consumer is going to get. It's like that's the interesting thing that I've found about it, because it's like, all right, you know what, cancer patient's going to die anyway, so quality of life is the question in that instance, as opposed to whether you're curing something. You're not curing anything at that point. It's just, all right, are you going to have a nicer 6 months?
Now, I caught up with Joshua Rye in Toms River, New Jersey, on the Jersey Shore, to get clarification on what he meant by his comments on Hidden Camera. What led him to say this? What led him to tell a total stranger that his product was not safe and effective? Here's a little sneak peek of how this went. This is one of the most extraordinary interactions ever, maybe rivaling the one that I had with the other guy inside Pfizer back 2.5 years ago. Are you Josh Rice from Johnson & Johnson? You're going to deny your identity?
Yes, sir.
And you said that your vaccine was not safe and effective. You said that. You know, where is he going? He's going to run away. He's going in the women's restroom. Are you confused?
Oh,
I am a human man. I am allowed to take a pee in the man's restroom. You shouldn't be surprised that this happened. We have no idea. People, I got it from your mouth.
No.
Stand behind what you said and explain to us what you meant by it.
oh,
Undercover investigations like these carried out by our OMG undercover journalists are pulling back the veil on the corruption and lies.
I think that's pretty much it to it. But yeah, you see that? This is the kind of stuff that's going on right now. This is something that is impacted the lives of many, many, many families. And it still is to this day. Why is that? Well, we're not talking about that. You know? Anyway, let's move on. Here's another story here. This is the kind of stuff. Meanwhile, while we're, you know, the stuff that you see going on, you know, online, you know, this petty stuff, you know, the tethers versus Black Americans and all of that. This is this guy. He's a bioethicist from the World Economic Forum. I want you to take a listen to what he is working towards, the world that he is working towards. While people are fighting and arguing amongst themselves, you know, with some of the most dumbest of things, I want you to take a listen to what he is focused on.
So I'll give 2 examples. So one is that people eat too much meat, right? And if they were to cut down on their consumption on meat, then they would it would actually really help the planet. But people are not willing to give up meat. Yeah, you know, some people will be willing to, but other people, they may be willing to, but they have a weakness of will. They say, wow, this steak is just too juicy. I can't do it. I'm one of those, by the way. So, you know, but so here's the thought, right? So it turns out that we know a lot about, we have these intolerance to, for example, I have milk intolerance. And some people are intolerant to crayfish. So possibly we can use human engineering to make it the case that we're intolerant to certain kinds of meat, to certain kinds of bovine proteins. And there's actually analogs of this in life. There's this thing called the Lone Star tick, where if it bites you, you'll become allergic to meat. I can sort of describe the mechanism. So that's something that we can do through human engineering. We can kind of possibly address really big world problems through human engineering.
So this is what they're looking into doing, is basically genetically modifying human beings so that they don't want meat. And trust and know they are working aggressively towards this goal. This is the kind of stuff they're doing right now. I'm going to tell you in a moment about what's his name is doing, Bill Gates. Something he's doing right now. But I want to read this comment here. Someone said, actually, man, Black people tried, but they got many community strikes and YouTube demonetized them. I was watching someone and YouTube disrupt the live feed. Well, we've been doing it. Well, you talking about us too, because we actually are one of those Black folks. We, on this platform here, there were many times where we did get strikes. But let me tell you what we did, because this is something that is involving people's lives. Let me tell you what we did on this platform. And it didn't really take a whole lot. We actually built our own YouTube. We built our own video platform where we could talk about it. Not only that, we also built a separate platform where we actually talked about it, and we put together documents, we put together mailing lists, and we distributed the information. Now, I'm not saying nobody else at all was doing that, but when you're talking about people's lives here, you understand? There's got to be a little bit more aggressiveness than they taking away my YouTube money, so I ain't gonna say nothing. Well, you ain't serious in the first place. Do you understand what I'm saying? And it wasn't just us doing that. I can point to countless numbers of people who were also doing that. They were going to platforms like Rumble. They were going to BitChute. They were going to Odyssey. In our case, we went to Odyssey. We went to Rumble. We went to BitChute, and we built our own. We built our own video platform called BondTube, where we were uploading all of this stuff. All of this stuff up there. We uploaded all this stuff so that people can access it on their own. Okay. So yeah. So were people getting demonetized? Yeah. Look at Rizza Islam. He's another example. This guy was definitely, they were on his tail, but did he stop putting that information out? No. He found other ways to put the information out. So yeah, there were people. What I'm saying is, yes, there were people who did get strikes, and trust me, we're one of them. We were getting a lot of strikes, okay, for doing it. But when we're talking about people's lives, there's a certain aggressiveness that you should have, the same type of aggressiveness that a lot of Negroes show against Target. We should be showing even more for something like this, when they're taking out grandma, when they're taking out auntie, when they're taking out your cousins and them. There should be a little bit more aggressiveness in that. I'm sorry. It's just, that's what needs to happen. And some people did, and there were a lot of people who didn't. Okay. So I could definitely tell you about that. Anyway, let me get out of here and let's move on to the next thing here. Let's see here. Here's another case here. Let me get this, and this will be one more. Well, I won't talk. Let me just not do that one. Let me see. All right, so let me move on to the next thing here. That was health. Let's go here. Well, while I'm doing this here, have you guys noticed the how Trump, and we're going to get to a couple of other stories here. Then we're going to get to our main story here in just a moment. You notice how Trump all of a sudden has turned big time, like 180 degrees. 180 degrees when it comes to this whole thing about the Jeff Epstein. And now he's trying to act as if, what is this? What are y'all even talking about? You guys are crazy. You know, why are you guys making a big deal about Jeff Epstein? You know, why are you making a big deal about him? You know, and I'm like, dude, you literally made Jeff Epstein part of your campaign promise. And now all of a sudden it ain't, you know, it's, if you even think about it, you're crazy. But this is the kind of stuff they do. These people do this all the time. It's not just Democrats. It ain't just Republicans. It's this system. This is what the system does, is that they will tell you one thing, be very aggressive about it. But then all of a sudden, y'all remember, some of y'all who are old enough, do you remember that scene? I always refer to it a lot in The Wiz. I ain't talking about The Wizard of Oz. I'm talking about The Wiz with Richard Pryor Wiz, okay, where they were changing those colors. Like they would go from red, then they went to what was the other color? It was, I know gold was the last one, but it was another one. Green. That's what it was. Green. You got to be seen in green. You remember that? And then after a while, he was like, I thought it over. I'm tired now. The new color is red. And then he switched to red. And then after that, well, that's what these people are doing now. They, right before your eyes, they'll tell you something, and then they'll switch up on you right in front of you and think and try to act as if you the one crazy for even to mention it. Wait a minute. Just a minute ago, the color was green. You know what I mean? Just a minute ago, a color was red. Okay, so you try to switch up. No. This Epstein thing is, and I'm telling you, this thing is revealing a whole lot. It's revealing a whole lot. And, you know, because I'm seeing these bigger podcasters and stuff that are out here, they're saying the same thing. Now, all of a sudden, they're like, you know, I think it's time for us to actually just let this thing go. Just let, and these are people who had did episode after episode after episode when it came to their podcasting. They were calling out this whole Epstein thing. But then all of a sudden now they get that call from Trump. Now all of a sudden it's, it ain't that important. What are we talking about here? Let's just leave it alone, And then you got some people out here, I'm listening to them, they're saying, well, you see, what you got to understand, Trump, he's doing 4D chess. That's what he's doing right now. And what he's doing is, he wants people to think that he is backing off of it. But in reality, in the back door, he's actually going after these people. And I'm sitting up here like, wow, y'all, this is crazy. But yeah, that's how this is. But this is what they're trying to get you to think here. But based on what, this ain't going away. It's not going away. And what I've said this before, and I'll say it again. My opinion, Bondi, they brought her in to take the fall. I would say, if I was a betting man, I would say by the end of the year, she gonna be gone. She gonna be gone, I believe, by the end of the year. She ain't gonna leave right now, but I would say by the end of the year, she probably gonna be gone, because that's usually when people step down. They usually do it like between Christmas and New Year's. They usually do that. But this is going to continue to be a distraction for the Trump administration. It's not going away, because you're talking about the lives of young people that were impacted by this, and I don't care how hard you're going after some of these other things. The Epstein thing was a centerpiece of your campaign. There's no way in the world you can think you can just walk away from that and act as people, trying to play these mind games and trying to make it seem as if people don't, they're just going to switch off on that. That's not going to happen. Somebody ultimately is going to take a fall for that, and they're going to try to tie it off real quick. This is what they do all the time. They do this stuff all the time. And I'm still keeping my eye on it, but this is still going. I just saw on Twitter just now, Congress, they just passed where they're pushing another bill where they're trying to push Trump to release everything. That's what they're trying to do. This is another bill that they're proposing right now, because now you got Democrats and Republicans that are joining in. Democrats, of course, got their own agenda as to why they are pushing this or whatever. But, Republicans too, because you have Republicans who had an opportunity earlier today to basically push this thing forward. This, hey, put everything out on the table. But you have Republicans, the ones that it was enough Republicans that stood up and said, no, we need to keep this under wraps. So they're playing around. They're playing around. You're dealing with a satanic cult that basically runs this world. The baseline of it is Judaism. And it is. And so whether they let it out or not, these are things that if you're an inquiring mind, all it takes is some time to look into this stuff, and you'll see it for yourself. These folks basically run a whole lot, and it does involve, unfortunately, little children. And it needs to come out. And if you think that they're just going to hand anything over, that's not going to happen. It is not going to happen. But information does eventually come out. And I think those who voted for Trump, those who support Trump, they are making themselves look like a bunch of jackasses right now by trying to turn the narrative to something else. When Trump made this his part of his whole campaign, now all of a sudden you want to act like people are stupid for even making it up. I mean, he's going as far as even trying to blame Obama and accusing Obama and Biden. He's saying they made it up. This whole Epstein thing, they must have, it was the Democrats. They made it up. It's crazy, man. It's crazy to watch people and how quickly they flip. That's what's so crazy about when I watch that. Yeah, let's go. Anyway, so let me move on here. Let me see what else I have. And then we're going to get to our main story here, because there's some things I definitely want to, I'm going to show y'all on. There's some real numbers here. And we're talking about the economy, particularly black economics here. All right. Let me see what I have here before we move on to that. I'm just combing through a couple of things here. And if I don't see it, that's okay. We'll just move on. Let me see. We talked about Trump. We went through some of the health things, and there's some other health issues that we will continue to talk about. If not on this platform, we'll use our other platforms as well. You know, we have Samba-Tree, of course, but we also have, I mentioned earlier, we're on Odyssey, and from time to time, we will go live on Odyssey where we will talk more about these things. And yeah, so yeah, we're going to do our part here. Let me just address this real quick. This guy here said, no need to throw family under the bus. Nobody's throwing anybody under the bus. We're just calling it for what it is. And I think if you're honest, you would see that as well. When you're talking about people who have physically lost their lives, right, by obeying the narrative and not questioning the narrative, that needs to be held in account, period. I don't care at this, it doesn't matter what color the person is. Do you understand what I'm saying? But I am saying in this conversation that if we can raise all of hell when it comes to Target, and we're not doing 1/10 of the effort when it comes to this right here, that is something that needs to be named and shamed. It does. Do you understand what I'm saying? Maybe you know, I don't know if you're trying to just keep it moving. We've been having it moving, and there's been a lot of other people who have it moving too. You understand what I'm saying? And not everybody has lost their lives, as you're saying here, talking about this stuff. There have been some people, but there are many people who just opted not to do it because YouTube wasn't going to pay them to do it. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's the kind of stuff I'm talking, bringing back real accountability. Those people who were pushing this narrative and did not even do the basic of research in it. But now all of a sudden, as more information is being approved to come out now all of a sudden they're being quiet. They're moving on to other things. No, those jackasses need to be called out. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because you're talking now, there are people that I know, there are people I'm sure you know, and others as well, that have lost some real people that are no longer here. And we can't just wave that off as just, you know, just things happen. You know, no. You got to call this stuff out. This is why I'm talking about why it's important for us to raise the standard on ourselves and begin to call these individuals out. Do you understand what I'm saying? So no, they threw their own selves under the bus, you know, when it comes to that kind of stuff. Anyway, let's move on. Let me switch to tell you about Samba-Tree real quick. After that, then we get to our main thing. So please stay around for that, okay? Because that's what this video really is about, okay? So anyway, Samba-Tree, make sure you go there, sambatree.com, you know, because this is another one of the ways that vehicles that we use to address, you know, some of the many issues that you will find when it comes to our health and wellness as a people. This is one of the platforms that we're using here, which is sambatree.com. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. This is our latest banner here. Herbal Solutions were always part of our legacy. This is something that I want people to understand this. Herbal Solutions. If you look like me, I want it to be understood that Herbal Solutions have always have been a part of your legacy. And this is something that you cannot abandon, especially in this day that we're in right now. You can't abandon this. It's very important that we make sure this ain't just about buying from us. I'm just saying Herbal Solutions, period. You have a beautiful legacy of aunties and grandmas and grandpas and, you know, and cousins and them that knew how to go in the woods and grab things that will make you feel better and address a lot of these ailments that we are facing today. And we got to get back to that. And we're just doing our small part. Let me just do the rundown real quick. Number one, we do have a 20% off sale that's going on right now. And the details are right there. 20% off. Okay. So this is the time to do it. If you're looking to save some extra coins, this is the time to do it. Another thing that we're addressing here, I'm not going to get too deep in this. Again, the alternate day fasting, that is coming up. That's going to be next week. So don't drag your feet on that. Don't think of it just as about losing weight, because you can go anywhere and lose weight. We ain't talking about that. What we're talking about is transforming your whole outlook on life, period. And this is not just a one-time class, but you're also going to get, it's going to be ongoing support. You're going to be part of a group where you can share your milestones and get encouragement and get tips and all kinds of stuff that you're going to be a part of as well. You're also going to get all kinds of notes and resources that are going to push you along so that you can be a much better version of yourself. In fact, you can just get a full upgrade. But again, I stress to you, it has very little to do. Losing weight is only part of the answer. All right, that's only part of it. A part of the solution. Pre-order now. Yeah, the fragrance. This is a fragrance that we developed because we got tired of all these different fragrances that are out here that are called sin and rebellion and witchcraft and demon and Satan and all this other stuff. We said, no, we need to put some life out here. So that's what we did. Is a beautiful smell, and you could check that out here. So check that out. We've had a lot of demand for that. Make sure you check that out. And then we got a lot of other stuff here too. I'm not going to go through all of this, but I would just tell you, make sure you go to SambaTree.com. And don't forget to, over on our SambaTree YouTube page, we have an ongoing series that we're doing right now on all the parts of the brain. We're doing all the parts of the brain. Okay. Jennifer, yeah, if you send an email, you will get a response back. Okay. Sometimes it takes a minute, but you know, Jennifer, you've been with us for a minute. We will always respond to that. Okay. All right, so sometimes it just takes a minute, but we'll get back to you. All right. Let me see here. So yeah, so make sure you check out the website again. Website again is SambaTree.com. All right. So let's get to the main part of our broadcast here, and let's go there. So let me just set it up for you. Now, my wife and I, the other day we went to it's Mexican stores. There's, you're in Arizona, they're all over the place here, and but they don't just have Mexican stores. There's like, if you go to Mesa, Arizona, they have they have a whole section. It's like a lot of Asians that live there, and they have their own stores and things like that. And I love going there, and but between the Asians and also the Mexicans, one of the things I noticed, I said, man, this is really something, man. They got their own functioning grocery stores, and not just grocery stores. Some of them have chains of grocery stores. And, it doesn't, in some of these grocery stores, they don't necessarily look like you going into I don't know, Whole Foods or something like that. But it's very functional, and you can get all the things that you're looking for, especially if you are of that culture. You can definitely find just about everything you need. Some of them, when you go into some of the Asian supermarkets, they even have, it's the supermarket, and then they'll have restaurants inside the supermarket. It's really neat. And, and these are people, like I said, it's Asian culture. So you got people from Japan, you got people from China, you got people, from all the Southeast Asian countries and all of that. But somehow they figure it out and they just get together. Am I saying they're perfect and they got everything together? Of course not. I'm not saying that. But they have something functional that you can go to. Case in point, my wife and I, we went to and my daughter, we went to, my wife loves matcha tea. She loves matcha green tea. That is like her favorite. And so, and it ain't no Starbucks level. She wants as real as you can get. So, you try some of these other places where they got Jenny in the background or whatever, and it's like, it ain't it. No, you got to go down to Mesa. You got to go where the Asian folks are, and they know how to do it. And they do a whole thing. They get their stuff. And anyway, it's really cool. And when my wife, she tasted it, she was like, there you go. That's it. And so they got like a whole network of shops and different things that they have. And we saw this one shop. It was this woman sells teas. So, and I think it's just her shop, and she got teas from literally all over. And she was telling us about all this different stuff. Then she was like, "Oh, I have something in the, every week, not every week, once a month, once or twice a month, one of the two." She said, "I open it up to the community where people can come in and we actually teach you about these different teas. And we have like a tea tasting and all of that. And I tell you about it and all that kind of stuff." And so I was like, shoot, I'm going to go, So I'm seeing all this and experiencing all this. I was like, wow, this is really, really something. But then, as someone who's very, always focused on the culture and really like looking at different cultures, I could not help myself but to then reflect on the many, 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 many examples I've seen over the years where unfortunately I've seen anything from a good start, it did run well, but then it fell flat, or it just blew up before it even started. I've seen that. And there have been times I have been involved in some of these ventures with people as well. So I'm not talking clearly as some outsider, nor am I just simply focused on the bad examples. Okay, not doing that. I am speaking as someone who has years under my belt as an entrepreneur. And I've seen this stuff play out all the time. Okay, so everything I am telling you is based off of my own experience. I'm not the only one, but there are, this is what I'm seeing here. So, but when I think about, like, say, for example, like a grocery store, like, when you hear about, black folks, there's a new black grocery store in town, man, we got to support it. And you usually hear about it. It gets all on the internet. Man, we finally got a grocery store. And it's good. And I'm always for that. Anytime I see stuff like that, I'm like, great, that is awesome. I am. But I can't help to think, I'm saying, wow, we are actually cheering for one grocery store. We're cheering for one grocery store. When I look at these Mexicans, they got grocery stores all over the country. We cheering for one. I'm always good for the one. But doesn't that, and especially when you consider the fact a lot of these Mexicans, they haven't been in this country that long. Now, before someone goes there and says, well, Dwayne, it's because the government is giving them all this money. Well, the government gives black folk a lot of money too, and been doing that. When it these economic empower zones and stuff like that, empowerment zones, I've seen all this stuff. I've witnessed all of these things. And unfortunately, there's some common trends that I see and I know many of you see. But we don't really want to talk about those things, do we? So what I want to do is I'm going to put something on the screen. And again, it was part of my little quick study and asking some questions and, going on ChatGPT. And since everybody's going on ChatGPT and asking ChatGPT, is heaven all black, and God, are you black, and all this other, if people can ask questions like that, let me ask some questions about economics and some real things that are going on. Okay. So that's what I did. So let me pull this up here. And I'll just go through it. It started off with me on X. I was on Twitter/X, and we have In-N-Out out here. I'm sure most of you are familiar with In-N-Out. In-N-Out is a burger joint out here, and I was looking at their Twitter feed, and they posted something on there. They said, they were talking about how their all of their branches do so well, and they said wherever we build one, it just does very well. And let me tell you something, for those of you who live out west and about In-N-Out, ain't not one time you can go to In-N-Out and there ain't a line. It's usually a long line at that. They got just about everybody beat when it comes to a long line. They're doing quite well, and they've been doing quite well for years. And so they said everywhere we build a restaurant, they said it does very well. They said the only one that we had to close down, we had to shut down, it was in Oakland. And they said the reason why we had to shut it down was because it was the high crime rate and we did not want to endanger our employees. Of course, that makes a lot of sense. And, you know, that needs to happen, right? But it made me think, I said, you know what? Let me start looking at this and let's put some real numbers behind this, because I've heard many people say this, but I think it'll be a good idea if we can kind of put this all together and let's look at it together. So that's what we're going to do. And it's right here. Okay. Yeah, I did. This was ChatGPT, you know, put this out. I had to ask a lot of questions and all that, and it put it together for me. Okay, so you see the title of it, Crime-Driven Retail and Restaurant Closures Between 2019 and 2025. Now, this isn't all businesses. I just wanted just some main examples. So this is not covering all businesses. So we'll just start from the top here. These are national and large chain restaurant closures, citing crime safety as a reason why they close. McDonald's in Chicago, In-N-Out in Oakland, I just mentioned it. Starbucks, they've had a shutdown in Seattle, Portland. Now, Seattle and Portland, their demographic is going to be mostly white. Okay, I'm gonna get down to that in a moment. But DC and Philadelphia, we'll talk about that. I think you kind of know. Taco Bell, Oakland, again, they had to shut down. Whole Foods, again, they had to shut down. And they said, here's the rationale, starting with McDonald's. It says crime and conflicts with unhoused individuals. In-N-Out, they had to shut down in Oakland. Why? Because armed robberies, gunfire, and car break-ins. Starbucks, drug use, assaults, disruptive behavior. Taco Bell, robberies and vandalism, staff safety. And then Whole Foods, employee assaults and theft. Like I said, there are many other examples that I can give, but I just wanted to kind of give just some of the more well-known ones. But I've been following this trend personally for years. I save a lot of these articles and stuff like that because that's what I do. I always like looking at different trends and stuff, right? So this is just a basic sample here. Non-food retailers. So now we're moving away from restaurants and now we're looking at just non-food retailers. For Target, they had to close down 9 stores in the Bay Area. They said 3 in Portland and Seattle. Remember, anytime you hear me now mentioning Portland and Seattle, I'm just mentioning them, but just know that those demographics there are going to be mostly white folks. Okay. And, but the other cities you'll see in a moment. Okay. Let's see. And for Target, they had to shut down because organized retail crime and worker safety. Walgreens, in San Francisco, retail theft, safety, and costs. I'm sure many of you have seen the countless number of videos coming out of San Francisco where you got people it's like they're organized. They go into these stores and they just grab a bunch of stuff and just walk out with it. Walmart, they had to close down 4 Chicago supercenters. They said losses doubling, theft cited locally. And then Nordstrom's in San Francisco, they said safety and foot traffic drop. So that's going to probably be one and the same. If there's a safety issue, not a lot of people are going to want to go there. Independent mom and pop businesses. Here's some examples here. Again, Oakland comes up a lot, and then San Francisco, don't have to go through all of that. Okay, so arrest record snapshots in the same city. So what I wanted to do, look at these same cities, and I wanted to know who are the individuals, what demographic makes up the majority of arrest records in these areas where these crimes are taking place. And so, of course, in Chicago, even though Chicago, believe it or not, does have, I would say, a higher, I think it's like 35% whites live there. But according to this, This is as of last year. The data set came from last year. 61% of the arrests that were made last year in Chicago was a Black/African American. And the reason why, and like I said, just to be really, really clear for those that look for some way to get offended, when it says Black African American, when I'm saying it, that is not specifically Black Americans. That's also you're dealing with other what you call it, immigrants, you know, like Haitians or, you know, Africans and stuff. They're in that number as well. Okay. But Black Americans are part of that number too. I actually did a video on that too, where we actually looked at the numbers on that. It's, you know, because some people, they want to exclude Black Americans out of that. And I'm saying, no, I agree that you do have a significant number when the main drivers of crime, the groups that are driving a significant number of crime in places like Chicago, there are going to come from people who are immigrated to this country legally or illegally in places like Chicago. That's a statement of fact. That's not me just making that up. Okay. That's not saying all immigrants behave this way. It's just saying when you look at the crime, they do make up a significant number. But it's not just them. You do have Black Americans who also contribute to these numbers too. All right. So I'm just want to be ultra clear with that. All right. In Oakland, again, this is as of last year. All of these numbers, with the exception of the last city, which is DC, are going to be as of 2024. All right. 47% of those that were arrested in Oakland were Black/African American, or we'll just say Black American. Okay. San Francisco, 50%. Portland, Oregon, is actually white. Remember, I said that earlier. 61% of those that were contributing to the crime in Portland were white people. Same thing with Seattle. It's 53%. Now we get to Milwaukee. We jump up to 63%. 63%. Let me see. Am I reading that right? Sorry. Milwaukee is 66%. Sorry about that. Of those that are arrested are Black folks, which include, you know, I told you earlier. Los Angeles is going to be 51% Hispanic Latino. And then finally in Washington, D.C., this is as of 2023, we're back at Black folks, and the number is up at 85%. Okay. So when we look at these numbers here, we see, all right, so we see these businesses here that have made the choice initially, hey, we're going to go because we're going to try to develop this area economically by bringing some of our stores here. And they made the attempt, because I can also tell you about Trader Joe's. It was a case with Trader Joe's, same thing. Grand opening, grand closing. They had to shut that thing down quick because of this is out west somewhere. I think it was in one of the, it was somewhere out west. They had to shut it down because of the amount of crime. And much of this crime from these stores are coming from Black folks. And then when you get down here, I also wanted to look at Black-owned business snapshots in the same metros. Okay. And it goes, we'll start with Chicago. Black-owned firms, 11%. Let's see, success indicator. The first column is a success indicator, 11% success. Stress failure signal. They said 66% of pandemic losses, 8 in 10 fail within 18 months. Now that is one thing when we're dealing with Black-owned businesses, we're talking specifically like mom and pop shops, right? So businesses, especially the ones that opened up during the pandemic, you got to factor that in too. All right. That is very real. You got to factor that in. There were a lot of businesses that they just could not survive. They could not survive. I mean, it took a lot out of them. You know what I mean? And this is across the board. It ain't just Black businesses. There were all types of mom and pop shops that just, they couldn't, they got shut down because of COVID, right? So you do have to factor that in. But you also have other factors too that we have to pay attention to. Oakland, same thing. We looked at At that 5-year business survival, 59.9%. Let's see here. Stress, failure signal, venues closed after shootings, burglaries. Let's see. San Francisco, it says black-owned firms up 8% since 2020. So they're actually seeing a slight increase, but they also are dealing with theft. And then another thing, when you're dealing with California, you know, everybody's pushing for a higher minimum wage. Okay, you can do that. But if you're a mom and pop shop, it's, you know, paying someone 20 plus an hour for doing, you know, just basic work. You're killing a lot of these small businesses. And that's the part that people don't want to look at, that because they don't understand the economics of it. Then we looked at, then we skipped down to Milwaukee. They had here a spike in walkouts at soul food spots. In Los Angeles. They mentioned Dine and Dash. TikTok challenges in Inglewood. Washington, D.C., violent crime up 69%, closures. So I will tell you this. Many of these businesses, now when we get down to black-owned businesses, they have their own set of challenges. So if you are McDonald's, In-N-Out, Starbucks, Taco Bell, Whole Foods, and you're having to shut down multiple stores because of the crime, what do you think how is that, you think, impacting these smaller businesses? And for the sake of our conversation, we're talking black-owned businesses. Many of these black-owned businesses too have to shut down because they can't deal with the crime. I remember when we were living back east, there are many cases where, you know, you go to a small, you know, black-owned business, like let's say if it was a restaurant, you know, if you didn't have a bulletproof shield up there at your register, what you doing? You taking your life in your own hands. Now, what I'm getting ready to say now, for some people, you ain't going to be able to handle this, but I'm going to say it anyway. The number one thing based off of the numbers is, so now that you've seen numbers there, the number one issue, the number one thing that is literally sucking black economic power dry in this day and age, it's not Trump. It's not the Democrats. It's not the Republicans. It's not Project 2025. It's not even the whole COVID thing, because we're past that now. It's other black people. It's other black folks. I did a video a while back where I actually talked about, I said, if you're a black entrepreneur, my advice to you is still do it, but I would not look into doing a brick and mortar. I would not look into a brick and mortar, because you are literally putting a target on yourself. Think about this for a second. You are moving. I can't tell you the amount of times I've seen black entrepreneurs go into black areas and say, man, and they're just so proud. And I'm happy for them, because they're like, man, I finally got my ducks in a row. I got my thing going. Now, there are few businesses that actually will do pretty well, but there's many of them that will not. And it simply comes down to the amount of crime that they have to deal with. See, we're not dealing with an era where you had black-owned businesses back in Jim Crow South, and then you had the people coming by with the white hoods and throwing cocktail bombs. We're not dealing with that. Now we're dealing with niggas. That's what we're dealing with right now. And it's easy to go after Target, because Target to us has a white face on it. So it's easy to target. But when it comes to black entrepreneurs that are really trying to make a difference, that are really trying to provide a service, trying to provide something that's going to make a difference, trying to build a legacy for them and their family, trying to answer some of the things that we've been complaining about for years, the number one obstacle for these individuals is not white people. It's black folks. Now, I'll give you an example here. I'll give you a good example. There was a store in Atlanta, and y'all can look it up because it went viral. There was a store in Atlanta that was about to close. This is I think it was like a retail, they sell clothes or something like that, right? And I could see it in my mind right now. I know exactly where this place is. But anyways, black person caught wind of it and they said, oh no, this ain't gonna happen. So they got on the phone, went on social media with them and said, hey, listen, let's get together and let's buy this place. Let's just make sure they stay in business. We're gonna keep buying from this place now. And they did. They showed up. They showed up. And that was a very, very wonderful thing that they did. That's good. But see, that's one example. But then I can also give you many examples of restaurants, for example, black-owned restaurants who have suffered through the whole dine and dash situation where you got black folks who will go to these restaurants or order up hundreds and hundreds of dollars of food and then walk out. And then you try, but there's no call to, we need to go and help this restaurant or we need to go help that restaurant. There's no call for that. This happens a whole lot is what I'm trying to tell you. And this is the number. So if you're black and you wanted to do a brick and mortar, this is what you're going to have to contend with. This is something that is real. You're going to have to deal with it. It's very real. I'm saying if you are building a brick and mortar in a mostly black area, this is real, y'all. It's 100% real, but it's true. And you can't tell me any different. It's true. But why is it that when we talk about this, because see, maybe people ain't saying nothing now, but give it some time. I'm sure someone will leave a comment. Why are you picking on black folks? I'm showing you the numbers. But what happens is people want to talk all around it, but we don't want to deal with it. And so, and again, if someone said, well, okay, what's your solution? I given you a solution. I said, don't build, just done. Don't wait for any empowerment zone. Figure out how you can do it online, because that way you'll be safe. And then if you want to do a warehouse situation, which one of the things we have, and we're going to be expanding on that, when you're doing a warehouse situation, you just off the grid, nobody knows, a nondescript. Years ago, another business we did a warehouse and nondescript. We ain't put no signs up or nothing. That was our warehouse. On the outside, it just looked like whatever. But the inside, we were in there working. And that was it. That's where all our orders went out and everything. That's what we did. And so that's how you have to think. You understand what I'm saying? But there's something there that the thing that really is upsetting, at least to me, is when you talk about this, people get angry. They get angry with you for bringing it up. You understand what I'm saying? So if you want to know black economic power, if you want to know why it is, I'll make it simple for you. You want to know why black economic power isn't really a power now? You want to know why? Even though if you look at our GDP, what we make collectively, it's a whole lot of money. But when it comes to real economic power, where we're seeing transformative change that's taking place in the community, you want to know why we don't see that? It's niggas. That's what it is. It is. But the mindset is you got to protect them. Somehow we got to protect these folks because, well, I don't want to call the cops, because that's the attitude. It's like, well, hey, listen, man, I don't want to call the cops. I don't want to see these people go to, they need to go. There's still this idea that we got to still protect these folks, because you're like, I don't want to be the one to call them, they got a family at home. Well, they should have thought about it. They should have thought about it before they came up in your place and tore it up or took some of your stuff. You understand what I'm saying? I've seen great people, great black folks. I mean, they trying their best. They got that stuff clean. They playing some nice music. You know, they got it all nice and done. I mean, they done put the work in, man. And I've seen niggas come in there and tear it up. And we're to the point where people don't even want to go there anymore. This happens all the time, all the time. I've seen grocery stores. You know, people, they complain about, well, you know, there's a food desert out here. And they ain't, you know, they keeping us in the desert. They keeping us in the cold. These white people won't bring in a grocery store out here. They won't bring us a grocery store so we can have good and clean food. Okay, they'll bring you one and then you tear that up. You go right, all you got to do is go on YouTube, y'all. All you got to do is go on YouTube. You here on YouTube now, you'll find video after 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 video. You'll find some people saying, y'all, I'm going to do a video. I showed y'all one. I showed y'all a video. There's a trend they got going on now. And black folks, I'm going to show you how you can get this thing that's $18. All you got to do is, what you do is when you get to the scanner, get a pack of gum and just scan it at the same time so they won't read it. This is the kind of stuff that's going on. And people be kikiing, ha-ha, and laughing and stuff. And so you see enough of that, what's going to happen? Walmart, like, listen, we done. And you remember it was going on that people were saying Walmart or Target, they're being racist. You ever wonder why you go into some of these stores and they got all the black stuff locked up? See, they're racist. Why they lock it up? Because folks are stealing them. That's why they're locking things up. And the amount of money that they have to put out for extra security to monitor just basic stuff. Do you understand what I'm saying? And see, on the flip, I'm gonna tell you how this impacts black folks, because again, I want you to be ultra clear here. This does not apply to all black folks, okay? Because you have some black folks who ain't about that life. Do you understand what I'm saying? You do have many black folks who ain't about that life. I know I got many of y'all out there right now. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm very clear with this. Let me give you an example. We went to a store. This had to be Mesa too. This Mesa, one thing I learned about Arizona, it's like, you got Phoenix and you got Mesa. If you don't know where you are, trust me, 9 times out of 10, you probably in Mesa. It's like everywhere's Mesa. Anyway, but I think this was in Mesa too. This was a store we came across. It was like a Middle Eastern grocery store. Again, nice store. Nice store we went to. And the only reason why I went to it is because we heard they had a restaurant inside there. And man, jackpot. I mean, we found a great restaurant. They had a little restaurant in there, and we got our little sandwiches and stuff like that. It was really good. And they had all their little foods and stuff there. And we got, man, shoot, I'm ready to go back. But anyway, I don't know if this guy was the owner or not sure. But he was sitting up at the front, and kind of, just watching folk or whatever. I don't know if he was security because he was like old and he had like an elder's type clothes on. So my family and I, we going down the, aisle and just talking and looking at different things or whatever. So he looking around and I see things out of the corner of my eye. I don't be, I'm not like hypersensitive, but it's kind of like I just take note and just, you know what I mean? You in the back of my mind, I got you bookmarked, but I'm not tripping until you try something, right? But I've already noted you when I walked in the door, right? So anyway, so we're in the freezer section. I'm walking, and my daughter, she mentioned, so you see what happened? I said, oh yeah. So the dude got up. He was acting like, got a store full of people. He got up and walked behind us like he was like acting like he was looking at something or whatever. And then he went back and sat down. I guess he wanted to make sure we weren't stealing some falafel or something like that. So, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But, me, I don't play that either because I wanted to be known. I can't help myself. So he went back, he sat back down, right? And so when we was ready to check out, I literally walked right straight to him. I didn't say anything, and I was staring right at him. I walked right straight to him. You know, my wife was at the register. She's paying for his stuff. And I walked straight at him. I was just looking right there at him and kept walking right at him. This man, he was trying to find anything to stare at. If he could have looked at the face of Allah, he would have done it. He was looking all over the place, like smiling and all. He was doing the Stevie Wonder at that point. I was like, yeah, okay, we ain't taking nothing. You know what I'm saying? But the reality is, unfortunately, they see things on TV, they see things on YouTube, and then they make these assumptions, unfortunately. You know what I mean? But I wanted to make it clear, too, we ain't them. But that's the thing. We got to contend with that. For those that do these things, it's automatically assumed in many cases that we're just like them. And it's like, no, that ain't it. So you see how much fighting you have to do as a black person, you know, when it comes to situations like that. It's like the only reason why you get that, it's a lot of times it's because of the fact of a precedent that was already set. Do you understand what I'm saying? So anyway, when it comes to this topic, I love talking about this. Not just talking about it like, oh, you know, these niggas out here, that's it. But I also like talking about what are some things we can do to, you know, to fix this stuff, right? So I'm always very big on, if you come across a business that this ain't this necessary. I'm not saying this, remember, Samba Tree, I'm not saying that, okay? I'm saying period. My wife will always tell you, she will always tell you, when it comes to like, when I come across small business is number one, I just have a heart for. I'll always try to buy something. But if I see a black owned business, probably like 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna get something just because. You know what I'm saying? That's just me. You know what I mean? But you know, in a few occasions where I don't, it's because I'm like, man, y'all not even trying, man. It just I mean, I'm not supporting that. I'm sorry. It's just one case I have to tell y'all. It was they had a food truck. And I was like, wow, there's some black folk out here. Okay, all right, they got a food truck. They got quite a few food trucks out here around by black folks, but you know, part of town I'm in, you know, it's, you know, you don't see it too much, right? So I saw one, I was like, oh man, okay, all right. And I'm getting to talking to them. They're like, yeah, you know, she talking like she old school, right? She's like, yeah. And she told me about what she made and all of that. I'm not going to even say it because someone out here may know who I'm talking about. I ain't giving nothing away. But I'll just say this. What they were making, these are like staple things that you will find in black folks make it, right? And so my mind is automatic. This is going to be a 10. And anyway, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just about finished. Anyway, so I assumed, okay, and so she was like, oh, you want to try some? I was like, yeah, okay, I'll try some. So I put that thing in my mouth, and I was like, you know, I'm trying to keep a straight face. I was like, you know, you doing the, yeah, whatever. And my wife, she was like, Dwayne, she said, if you're not trying to buy anything, this is your time now to turn and leave. Because it was someone else that came up right from behind me, you know, and they were like talking to him or whatever. And she was like, basically use that distraction. You need to turn real quick. And I did the Homer Simpson. I backed up so quick. And I was like, I'm trying to point to anything, you know, I was like, look over there. You know, I'm pointing, it's like the Amazon truck. I'm trying to find something like, you know, I just couldn't. I said, I can't. So, you know, but they were nice. They were nice folks. You know what I'm saying? They out here and then they gotta, I'm sure somebody buy their stuff or whatever, and good for them. You know what I'm saying? So I do try, you know what I'm saying? And when I see stuff, but yeah, but ultimately what I am saying is this, is that yes, support, but you know, then be honest too, you know, because the stuff ain't legit, I mean, usually it's when it comes to service, if the service ain't what it's supposed to be. I'm real big when it comes to like the customer service part. I'll definitely say something, but like in a case like that, I just marked it off as it just ain't me. That's just not me. It may be for someone else, but it ain't me, and clearly somebody out here buying it. So there you go. You know what I'm saying? So we should support, but also as businesses, we have to learn to respect customers too, and not assume that just because your customers that are coming in are Black, that you can treat them any kind of way. You can't do that either. So it's a two-way street. You know what I'm saying? But we cannot just simply tolerate the foolishness when it comes to this. And this is the reality when we talk about Black economic power. You have to look at it not so much as a corporate thing anymore. You have to really look at business from a more of a perspective of building your own legacy. You have to look at that. The products that you come out with, yes, you could target Black folks, but you also got to start looking at the wider audience out here. Because like it or not, you can call these people tethers or whatever the heck you want to call them. It doesn't matter. You need to appeal to as of a wide of an audience as possible. And your service that you offer to all of them has to be the same. It has to be regardless if you're dealing with white people, regardless if you're dealing with Black people, it doesn't matter. Your service has to be, if you're offering great service, it has to be across the board. You understand what I'm saying? That's what really helps you to move you ahead, to move you forward. You understand what I'm saying? You can't think of, I'm going to create a consortium of Black-owned businesses. I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's on paper that sounds like a great idea, but in reality, I don't know at this juncture right now if what we call the Black community is healthy enough right now to try to do something like that. When you look at a business, like there are things I'm doing right now, this is about building legacy. I'm teaching our children how to think and how to operate in terms of building their own stuff and doing it in such a way where they can carry it on and continue it on. You know what I'm saying? And, and you can help other people along the way too. But, at the end of the day, you got to focus on making sure your stuff is right. You understand what I'm saying? But, that's really what it comes down to. But I just wanted to point that out. That's why I wanted to do this segment on this. And I know we went a little bit longer than I wanted to tonight, because we were covering the news and stuff on the first hour. But this is a very important topic when we're talking about economic power. You have to think smaller. You understand what I'm saying? You have to think smaller. Don't think like we used to think back in the 80s or in the 70s and the 60s or whatever, that we need to have this whole section of town where we're all doing. Like I said, based on the things we've been talking about, what we call, again, the Black community, I don't think is healthy enough right now we're not at that point. So you need to focus on you right now. Focus on your business. Try to be the best that you can be, regardless of who walks in the door. But like I said, again, my advice would be, if you are going to target specifically Black folks and you're thinking about doing a brick and mortar, based on what we are seeing out here, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do a brick and mortar. I would not, because you're going to be stuck with a lot of stuff. I've seen Black businesses do this stuff. They're stuck with enormous rents that they can't finish out. They've signed this long lease they can't finish out because it just fell apart. You know what I mean? And if you're not ready for that, but you got these big dreams and no, don't do it. Don't do it. I could tell you a lot of stories, y'all. I could tell you a lot of stories about that. There's some very good stories out there, and there's some stories that aren't too good. And so, we do what we can to, try to help folks and encourage people who are looking in the area of entrepreneurship and all that. But we have to be honest. We have to be honest with ourselves, Black folks. We have to be honest and call this stuff out. You understand what I'm saying? This is the number one thing that's sucking the life out of Black economic power right now. It's niggas. It is. I have to say it. It is. How would you like you part of your life savings into a business, and you literally have folk coming in there and sucking the life out of it. I can give you an example. I'll give you another one. Like I told you, I got plenty of examples. I spent, it was a better part of my 401k. We bought a business. This was down in Atlanta, and but we were also heavily involved in the church. Not a good mix at all. You would think it would be, but it's not. But once you decide to leave the church, now all of a sudden you're the devil now. Now all of a sudden, how you gonna lead the church now? You leaving the church? Well, I ain't going to your business anymore. And you understand what I'm saying? I could tell you stories like that and how dangerous that is. So many lessons that my wife and I have learned over the years when it comes to this stuff, and why you cannot think that way, So anyway, that's it. I think that's it. I think I've covered quite a bit in this broadcast. Like I said, I went a lot longer than I wanted to, but hopefully you got something out of it. And what I'll try to do is I will chapter this this broadcast out. So if you want to come back to it, you'll just know where to scroll to and get to it. Okay. I think that's it. That's all I have for you. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. This is where I would say right now, if you have any questions or comments that for me, I know we've been here for a minute, but you can put it in the chat for me. I'll put on some music. I'll be here. Let me just stick around for a couple of minutes. And if anybody has any kind of questions, I saw someone just post something just now here. Give me a moment. Let me find some music here to put on. And yeah, let me see if anybody, let me look through here and see if anybody has any questions or anything like that for me. Okay. Let me see. Hold on. I don't know what that is. Anyway, I just playing something here. All right, let me look in the comments here. Oh, okay. T Psalms. Wow, I haven't seen your name in a minute. I'm sure you've been around. Not related, but I wanted to share that class, Our DNA Sings, but it's not on YouTube. Can you please download it? Yeah, let me figure out where it is, and then yeah, I will definitely. If you can email me, and as a reminder too, let me see if I can find that for you. I'll be more than happy to put that somewhere where upload it, because that was a good one. That was a good one. We'll make that available. I think that was one of those we put on my BondTube. Let me see if I can figure out where that is, and yeah, I'll be more than happy to make that available. All right, thank you so much, T Sounds, for that. Appreciate that. Let's see what else we got. Behind enemy lines. Let's see what they're saying here. They say close ranks, barter, trust, detox, buy land. Well, you're true to your name. I'll just say that, behind enemy lines. You true to your name, though. Hey, you ain't deviating. You ain't deviating. Hey, I ain't mad at you. I ain't mad at you. Anyway, let's move on. Let's see. Someone asked something else. I'm trying to find it. Oh, Jennifer Young, she said, I understand, but you can't change what's in their hearts. No, you sure can't, but you can change the locks on them doors, though. You know what I'm saying? And some folk, they just can't get in. You got. Someone else asked something earlier in the broadcast. Let me see. And I was like, make sure you email me. Is the song that I played earlier in the broadcast, is that available for download? Make sure you email me, and I'll make sure, even if I just email it to you directly, I'll be more than happy to do that. Let's see. This is Titus Singleton. What did he say here? Actually, man, black people are tired, but they got many community strike. Yeah. I already talked about that. We already talked about that too. Let's see what else. I'm just scrolling. Oh, here we go. RJ, in our Canadian friend. I have a question, Dwayne. Do you got any tips on writing a book? I'm in the middle of writing a romance novel. Okay, all right. Okay, cool. Oh, we going in the bag here with some of this music. Hold on, let me just see what else I have here. Okay, there you go. I like that one. All right. Do you have a tips on writing a book? I'm in the middle of writing a romance novel. Okay, well, that's a good question. I would say this. This is just very general. As you know, we're in the age of AI, which means that you have to be very careful. And this is something I shared in the ChatGPT class that we offer over on Samba University. And for those that don't know, you just go to sambatree.com and then click on Samba University and you'll find a class there. Is that the way I use ChatGPT, I use it as an assistant. And what do I mean by that? There are people right now, funny story. My daughter, when it comes to reading novels, man, she read anything. I mean, that girl will read anything. She'll be telling me stuff. I'm like, girl, why are you reading that? And we'll be sitting up here laughing. She'll come across stories, novels. She don't really read these, but she just tells me about it. You know, there's a whole genre of novels out there where they're romance novels where you got women that are having romantic relationships with crickets. I'm not lying, y'all. Or men having romantic relationship with space aliens and stuff. I'm telling you, people will make up anything. It's wide open. So what people do is that they will go to ChatGPT, for example, and they'll say, write me a novel about this. And they just give a very basic, quick outline. And ChatGPT or whatever chatbot you use, it will generate it for them. My encouragement to you is do not do that. When I write a post, typically when I'm writing like most of the posts that you see me post on the community page, I write those. There may be a section or two that I may pull from ChatGPT, but most of that I'm literally writing myself. So what usually ends up happening is, if depending on the topic, I will actually write most of it. I won't, if I don't, I will write like 75% of whatever it is. In this case, I'm talking like a post or something. And then what I will do is I will upload that. You don't have to do this. I will upload it to ChatGPT only to give me maybe some suggestions, because my grammar may be off, right? Maybe a certain scene, I can get some advice on how to make that scene a little bit better, that kind of thing, where I'm in the lead. You understand what I'm saying? I'm in the lead of it. I'm not just giving it a couple of things and saying, go ahead and make the whole thing for me. You don't want to do that. Okay, remember, you are the real intelligence. That's artificial intelligence. So you want to make sure you are always in the lead on that. You don't. And so so for me, when I use ChatGPT, I'm using it more so to, clean up some of the things that I've already written. But your ideas are your ideas, and you need to preserve those. You know what I'm saying? And you need to build on your ideas. ChatGPT has its place, but make sure that place isn't in the lead. You know what I mean? I think it's a very valuable tool for writers. Very valuable tool, but make sure that your creativity is in the lead and not the other way around, because there are far too many people right now that are doing that. They're making a killing off of using ChatGPT to write all kinds of stories, but unfortunately it's ChatGPT that's doing all the writing for them. You don't want that. Okay? We want to preserve our innate abilities. You know what I mean? And use the technology only as a way of cleaning up or making it, what it needs to be, so that it's on point and it's something that can be marketable, something that can be engaging and all of that. That's what you want to use AI for. on that capacity at that level, nothing more than that. So that would be my advice on that. And then another thing you can do too as well is get a Instagram page. If it's a romance novel, you can create an Instagram page that maybe you're highlighting the story, different parts of the story. You can use AI images or whatever, and you can create different characters and all of that, and give backstories and all that to get people engaged in the story. You know what I'm saying? So it's not just a book, but they get to see, oh, this is what so and so looks like. You know what I mean? And I would go even further than that. Get you on some of these AI music platforms and create a whole soundtrack for your book, your romance book. So make it a full package. You know what I mean? Where you're doing things to really bring people into your imagination. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not just you're just reading a book, but there actually are people are coming into a whole experience. So there's a lot of things you can do with these tools, than just doing a book. You know what I mean? Make it into a whole experience. And then, you just market it that way. There's a lot of things you can do. So with that, and I'm sharing you things that I either did to a measure or wish I could do, if I had the time. But those are things you could do. But anyway, I'm still here. I can go on as long as y'all want me to. If y'all got any other questions for me, maybe you're trying to start a business. Maybe you need some general basic advice on business. Maybe you have some questions regarding, maybe some herbal stuff. Maybe you got some questions on that. Maybe you got some questions on some, how to handle certain situations that's going on in the house. You know what I mean? I can give you some basic help. You understand what I'm saying? You don't have to, we don't need to do the phone thing. I'm here for you. Okay. So you have a real person that you can interact with in real time here right now. If you just kind of need someone to help you think something out or whatever, I'm here. Okay. Let me see what he said here. He said, my romance is about the history nerd guy who meets a Dominican girl from the Bronx and they fall in love, and it's going to be a young adult novel. Okay. All right. Okay, cool. Make sure you keep it clean though. Keep it clean though. That's not don't get graphic. Anyway, I'll give y'all about another few minutes. And if there isn't anybody else, I'll leave my way and I'll head on in the kitchen and get more of this watermelon before it all disappears. Cause I tell you right now, in this house, we'll get a whole watermelon. It'll be gone. It will be gone by the end of the night. I'm serious. But yeah, that's my thing there, man. During these months, but I've been missing it though. Some of these watermelon I'm doing all my tests to make sure it's the right one. Man, I get that thing home. That thing be just as sloppy as I don't know what inside. And so what we did was we ended up, I took it and put it in the blender and then put it in a mason jar, and then I just use it for my smoothies. Here's someone else here. What they're saying here. Overflow. He says, "Hey Dwayne, what's one of the best ways for women to deal with fibroids?" Very interesting. Let's find out. What's one of the ways that women can deal with fibroids? Let's take a look. I'm gonna get back to you in a moment on that one. Let me see. Make sure I'm clearing up anything else. Are there any black publishers? Just asking. I'm sure there are many of them right now, especially nowadays. Again, I know we hate the word AI now, but you got everybody and their mama now want to be a publisher. So it really depends. But there are there black publishers out there? Just do a quick search, you'll find some. But make sure if you're trying to distribute information, like with any publisher, my advice is always look over the paperwork and make sure you get an attorney involved in that if you're looking at it that way. Let's take a look. I'm pulling something up right now, and this is a tool that we developed for everybody to use. I'm pulling it up on the screen right now. This is our Baba Herb Assistant, and you can access it. Just go to our go to sambatree.com. It's free. It is free. It's free, y'all. And okay, it's no charge with this. It's absolutely free. Let's see. We're looking up right now, and let's find out and see. Now, this tool that we developed, yes, it's ChatGPT. However, what we did was we wanted to focus on herbs that come from the Caribbean, from Africa, and we also pulling from Dr. Sebi and some other like-minded resources. And then that's the primary information. And then the secondary information is coming from everywhere else, like the internet and all that, right? All right, so let's go to what he asked here. What? Some ways to deal with okay. And while we're looking this up here, too many concurrent requests. I ain't request anything. Hold on. What the heck is going on here? Too many concurrent requests. I haven't made any requests. If not, I'll just use something else. Hold on. But while I'm doing this, and we're gonna find out, I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe it's down. What was I going to say? Oh, those floods. Y'all seen those floods going on? What the heck? Anyway, let me hold on. Yeah, they actually, somebody actually looked into this, and let me turn this down here. There's a person that's connected to, I forgot the guy's name, but basically he's into geoengineering, where they're spraying these clouds, spraying the skies in some of these states. And then it just so happened he just did this whole spraying-a-thon, and then right after that, all of a sudden, now you're getting all this rain all over the place like this. I mean, even up in New Jersey, they're flooding out and all this stuff. So no, this is not just a mere coincidence. I don't know what's going on with this. Let me see. If not, like I said, I'll look up. Too many concurrent requests. Okay, they must be down. So what I will do is this. We'll just switch up to Grok. How about we do that? Let me find Grok here, and we'll find out. Yeah, they might be down. It may be down for us. All right, so I'm gonna pull it up here on Grok and ask the same question. Let's take a look and see. All right, let me pull this up on the screen. I'm not gonna go through all of it here, but yeah, Grok, Grok. That's another one that you can check out here, and it just gave us a whole bunch of stuff right here. All right, so they're giving us from perspective of going to the medical, going to your doctor or whatever. Now what we're gonna ask is give us some herbal ways to deal with this. What are some herbal alternatives and natural alternatives? All right, so we're gonna see here. Grok is moves really fast. Okay, here's some things right here. But like I said, again, this is just the beginning. The other thing, that the tool that I have, it works. But like I said, I think ChatGPT must be down for us. So if you go to Grok, Grok.com, that's actually free as well. You can use that. And like they said up here, Grok is not a doctor, just like ChatGPT isn't. But they do give you some things that you can look at. Here's some options here. and they tell you for each herb, like chasteberry may help regulate hormones by influencing the pituitary gland, so forth and so on. Dong quai, milk thistle, green tea, turmeric, vitamin D, omega-3. It's giving you a whole bunch of stuff here. My advice to you is the more detailed you are using these tools, the more refined your results are going to be. So I just wanted to do something real quick so you can get an idea of some of the things you can do. Also, some of these herbs that I'm seeing here that they're listing, you remember earlier in the broadcast I mentioned like it's a Chinese woman that's in town. They have she has like a tea shop. If you see some of these teas here, any of the things, herbs that they mention, see if there's if we don't sell them, of course, on Samba Tree, but if there's a herb shop nearby, hey, go and check them out, and they have things there as well. You can also go to Whole Foods. If you have a Whole Foods and you talk to the people who work in that section, they can be very helpful too for natural things you can do. You know what I mean? But that's natural. But make sure, I think above all else, make sure you're going to a licensed person that can really look into it, because I don't have any idea of the severity of it. And you definitely want to make sure you're getting an accurate analysis, you know, not one from a guy on YouTube. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I would say there on that. Let me see. Anything else? And if not, I will shut it down. Let's see. What I can do too is we can look into this further here, and we can actually post some things over on Samba Tree, like, you know, article or two, some resources on there. So, you know, maybe I see someone else asking about it too. Maybe we can put something out there for you. Okay. Okay. Well, if y'all don't have anything else, Sprouts. Sprouts is another great place. How did I forget that? Sprouts is another great location, a resource that you can go to as well for stuff like that. Okay. And that's it. I think that's it. I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. You guys, thank you as always for tuning in. And like I said, from time to time, we'll do this too. We'll open up the floor. Anybody got any questions, anything at all? If you agree with something I said, maybe you disagree with something I said, this is the time. You know, we try to open up the floor for that. You know, we just ask people to be respectful. And that's it. I'm looking outside right now. I don't know where you are, but the sun is almost down. So I'm going to try to see if I can catch a slice of a light before it goes completely down while I'm eating my watermelon. Okay. All right. That's all we have. Y'all, thank you as always for tuning in. Listen, you guys take care. Enjoy the rest of your evening and the rest of your week. You guys take care. Remember, 20% off is going on right now over on sambatree.com. Take advantage of it. Take care. I'll see you again soon.